Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Angels. They swept the New York Yankees. Is this another sign of good fortune followed by bad fortune, or can the Angels actually make a good playoff push? And the Dodgers, they're playing pretty decently as they're back in first place in the NL West. But can they stay there as the Diamondbacks and Giants are lurking about? Also, the Pac-12 Football coaches poll in the preseason has been released as USC is standing atop and are talented. Can they live up to their expectations and actually claim the Pac-12 championship? Or will it be another case of them crumbling like a graham cracker? And what will be of UCLA football this year? But we can't sleep on those guys as well. Also, LAFC tied with Minnesota, and sadly the Galaxy straight up got whomped by the Vancouver Whitecaps as the Galaxy open up group stage play in the League's Cup next week. If both those teams actually do well, we'll see, as I'll preview that and more on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 142 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let's do this. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and on Facebook. For Facebook, all you just gotta do is type in the word IE, then sports, then radio, like us, and then boom, that's how you're able to like us on Facebook, if you still use Facebook. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you'll see all of our sports news, our blog, and our Hall of Fame, as well as our Fans of the Month, and our pages dedicated to our podcast, as well as our IE Sports Radio community forum. And also, please stop by the merchandise shop, as we do have ourselves a newly founded merchandise that just got in, but do react quickly because it's going just like that. I don't know if you heard the snap, but that's how quickly it's going. Also, definitely do check out the code that is there. We definitely have a code. It's IESR some sale, as you only have one more day left. I don't know if you saw the retweet via IE Sports Radio, but there is only 1 day left of getting 10% off. And if you don't take advantage of that 10% off, you will not get another discount from another week to come. So please do get your discount soon. Also, IE Sports Radio has a sponsor. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. I had to do that. Planet Jerky, the premium brisket beef jerky, is the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio. Planet Jerky is also the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, who is the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, and it contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar, and it's high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and it's for a limited time, which is not for a limited time. You can obviously get your hands on this anytime, any place, anywhere. And for a limited time, however, you can win 4 tickets to see the Lake Elsinore Storm, or you can get 4 bags of jerky from Planet Jerky. All you just have to do is visit planetjerky.net, place your order, follow Planet Jerky on Instagram @PlanetJerky, and then DM them that you bought your jerky by hearing this ad on this show, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, or any other show on IE Sports Radio. You will then be entered into a raffle that ends on Tuesday, August 1st. So don't procrastinate. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, premium brisket jerky, the jerky that is on a whole nother planet. And I'm going to be buying probably 10 bags. Guarantee it, whether it's via online or in person. Also, shameless plug that tonight is actually Lake Elsinore's replica ring night in terms of their championship ring night, as basically they're going to be celebrating last year's championship team. And you, the fans, if you get there earlier enough, you have the chance to get a replica championship ring from last year's 2022 California League champion, the Lake Elsinore Storm. You just gotta get there early enough. Just do so. I highly recommend getting there early, because I know my buddy, Larry B., who is in the chat room, he basically informed me of that, and he says, championship ring replica night tonight at Storm Stadium. We'll be getting our rings. And yes, definitely do get there early, just because they're going to be selling out just like that. And I don't know if you heard the snap, but that's how fast they'll be going out. So just need to give that quick plug to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio, and the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion, Lake Elsinore Storm. And with all that said and done, let us begin. As, once again, thank you to Larry B. for popping into the chat room. He has a lot to say. He says, the Angels swept the Yankees, and I couldn't be more shocked. Same here. And then he says, USC baseball is going to be awesome, just saying. Yeah, and I feel they got gypped in terms of them missing the NCAA tournament. Them and UC Irvine. And then he says, hopefully USC doesn't suck. Same here. And then he also says the Galaxy need to not be a team for the rest of the season and just build a team for the rest of the season. And then he also says the Sparks are horrible. Yeah, they just lost to the Minnesota Lynx. Again! And then he says the Lakers aren't even in season right now, and they suck. How does that happen? LOL. Well, I wouldn't say that. Austin Reeves is a part of the FIBA 2023 men's basketball team, so I think that's still a good thing. And they re-signed Austin Reeves, so I think that's a win. If they had let him go and let him walk out the door and he got signed to maybe the Clippers or somebody else, then maybe that would be sucking, but I digress on that. Anyway, so let's begin let's go over the college football aspect in terms of the Pac-12. So yesterday or Wednesday, a few days ago, the Pac-12 football preseason media poll just got released, and no surprise, USC is on top as they were chosen to finish first in the Pac-12 in football, as they garnered 25 first-place votes. I don't know how many points they garnered altogether, but I can tell you that they probably garnered too many, as they're now slated to finish first yet again. Right behind them is Washington, as they garnered 4 first-place votes. And then Utah, surprisingly, garnered 6 first-place votes, but they were slated to finish third. And then Oregon, who garnered 1 first-place vote, is picked to finish fourth. Oregon State 5th, then UCLA is picked to finish 6th, then you got Washington State 7th, Arizona 8th, Cal 9th, Arizona State 10th, Colorado 11th, and bringing up the rear is Stanford, which that's uncharted territory for the Cardinal. But hey, that's what happens when you let go of David Shaw. But what can you do? Alright, but for USC, there is a lot of expectations for USC, especially since Caleb Williams is in his last year with the Trojans. He's in his senior season, and honestly, this is USC's swan song. Well, USC and UCLA's swan song in terms of basically ending off their run in the Pac-12. Because after this year, they're going to the Big Ten, and there's not going to be a whole lot of cupcakes in that conference in terms of that. But I will say this, I think USC has to do good. Like, if they really want to, if there's ever a year they really want to win the national championship, it's got to be this year. Now, obviously, Washington returns Michael Penix Jr., and then obviously Utah returns Cam Rising. But for USC, they return they return Caleb Williams, their Heisman winner, and obviously they have Lincoln Riley, who has earned praises from Nick Saban, the Alabama head coach, which I've talked about a lot. But when you're getting praises from Nick Saban saying that recruiting, that he's your biggest competition in terms of recruiting all over the world, that's when you know you've made it. So for USC, all eyes are on them, and basically everything is on them to have that greatest season ever, and to send Caleb Williams off with a national championship. Because, yes, he won the Heisman, but of all the Heisman nominees, he was the only one that wasn't in the national championship Final Four or the CFB college football finals or whatnot. Regardless, we want to see Caleb Williams in the Final Four in terms of the college football semifinals. And I know people don't like USC just because of West Coast bias and all that sort of jazz. But honestly, I want to see USC back in that championship contention. And they really could have had they just beaten Utah at least one time. If they had beaten Utah in the regular season, Utah wouldn't have even been in the Pac-12 championship. And if USC had beaten Utah in the Pac-12 championship, USC would have probably been in the college football championship Final Four. Unfortunately, USC just couldn't get that done. They had to play Tulane for the Cotton Bowl, which sadly they lost to just because of a special teams gaffe. And the next play, they straight up got a safety, or they were tackled into their own end zone for a safety, and then Tulane went down the field and wound up scoring the go-ahead touchdown, and then that was game over from there. So for USC, again, all eyes are on them, and I really think they do have that potential, and I hope they could rise to the occasion. I really want them to, especially for Caleb Williams. And also, I really want the haters to just be quiet. So, and also, why not make the Pac-12, why not make the Pac-12 a little bit more memorable one final time? Just because after this year, the Pac-12 is going to go straight into shambles, unless, of course, San Diego State moves into the Pac-12, which I'll get into that a little bit later. But for right now, that's kind of my little synopsis on USC. My only concern for SC is their defense. If their defense does not answer the bell, then expect high-scoring affairs from the Trojans. And expect Alex Grinch to be out the door probably by week 3. Just because I really think Alex Grinch should have been out the door after that debacle against Tulane. But honestly, I really think that my only concern for USC is maybe the defense. I did see in power rankings that USC didn't really have the best linebacker core, which I guess is understandable, but what can you do? I mean, obviously they lost Tuli Pelotu and a few others to the draft and whatnot, but hey, it is what it is. USC has to rebuild and not reload, or reload and not rebuild. Just because you can't do that in the Pac-12, and you can't do that in terms of college football playoffs and whatnot. So, yeah. Yes, Larry, USC still can't even beat Utah. I mean, it's pick your poison with SC. It's either you can't beat Utah or you can't beat Oregon. I really, really want them I feel that there's no easy way out, and they're going to have to beat one boogeyman in the Pac-12. And I don't even know what it's going to be like facing Washington. Maybe Washington is probably the lesser of the two evils. Sorry. But honestly, I don't know what to expect with Washington. I feel Michael Penix Jr. is still going to be that guy because he's brought Washington back from the dead. And look how relevant Washington is now. Like, they're chosen to finish second in the Pac-12 Football preseason media poll, which is interesting if you ask me. Maybe Washington could be the savior for the Pac-12 or Oregon, but that's still remains to be seen. And this isn't talking about Washington and Utah. This is talking about SC and UCLA. Speaking of UCLA, they were chosen to finish 6th in the Pac-12 football preseason media poll for 2023. Okay, well, this is kind of an understandable situation for UCLA. I don't think they're going to be bad, but their quarterback situation is kind of a big question mark. Do they start Chase Young? Most likely. Like, that's their biggest question mark. Or do you start Ethan Garbers? That is just a big question mark right there. How do you move on from Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a.k.a. DTR? I just feel that that's going to be the biggest question mark for UCLA. Like, UCLA probably has all the talent in the world other than that, but that's still their biggest question mark of trying to replace DTR, because DTR was the starter for the past 5 seasons. Like, you can't replace that, unfortunately. But now is kind of the big question. Who's the guy that takes the snaps now? So, all in all for UCLA, I feel they can be competitive. I feel maybe they could hang with some of these Titans, but I don't think they'll be in that top 2. I feel UCLA is right there, though. Like, a couple more years, that's a big couple more years, because they're transferring into the Big 12 or Big 10 with USC. Maybe they could be relevant, but that's going to be tough if you're having to face the likes of Michigan and Ohio State. So, but time will tell for UCLA. I think they have something good going on. Chip Kelly has found a good home, and honestly, I think he's comfortable there. I feel he's good. He's in good standard and good standing with that team. I don't think he is doing anything wrong. I think Chip Kelly is found the respect for all the administrators and all the other football coaches and all the players at UCLA. And I think he is basically a king there at UCLA in terms of football. But for success in the Pac-12, that's going to be a little bit tough this year. I mean, I could still see them going bowling, but every team outside of maybe Cal, Arizona State, Stanford, and maybe Washington State has improved. Like, I know Arizona is going to be improved because that's the team that beat UCLA last year. And then Oregon State with DJ Uiagalelei, that guy is going to help Oregon State and then some. And I definitely can tell you that Oregon State has the best linebackers in the conference. Oregon, I think, has an underrated defense, and they've got some good playmakers on both sides of the ball. Utah obviously returns Cam Rising, but now is the big-time pressure of repeating as champions. And then Washington's got some big expectations, and my biggest takeaway from them is, can they live up to those expectations? And then for UCLA, I think their mentality is, why not them? If there's ever going to be a year where they want to play spoiler, this could be the year, just because it's not going to get easier once you transfer into that Big Ten, because the Big Ten is going to have monsters every single week once you transition into conference play. Like, there's not going to be one easy week. So you might have signed yourself up for more than you could chew. And once USC and UCLA are in Big Ten country, there will not be one SoCal team in the Pac-12 unless, of course, someone from SoCal, another team from SoCal wants to transfer to the Pac-12, like San Diego State or whatnot. But I digress on that. So for UCLA, if there's ever a year you want to play spoiler, this has to be the year. Because if you don't, you might not ever have a chance to play spoiler. Unless, of course, you get the biggest, fattest, sexiest recruiting class. And maybe sexiest might not have been the best word, but I think that is probably a good word to use. I don't mean it like that, but I'm just saying you need to have like a really good recruiting class, because now that you're transitioning into the Big Ten, boom, that's when things get really real. So we'll see what happens. All right, but that's enough for USC and UCLA. So I do want to get into a little bit of San Diego State news. So this came from Ross Dellinger back on July 18th, which was 3 days ago on Tuesday. He actually said this via tweet. He said, San Diego State originally sent the Mountain West a letter announcing its intention, with 2 stars by it, to withdraw. The Mountain West took it as a formal withdrawal and withheld its distribution. And then after that, it said, after the Pac-12 failed to finalize a new TV deal by San Diego State's June 30th deadline, San Diego State requested it remain a Mountain West Conference member. So let me say that last part again. After the Pac-12 failed to finalize a new TV deal by San Diego State's June 30th deadline, San Diego State requested it remain a Mountain West Conference member. Yeah, Pac-12, you done screwed up, because now that you did not finalize your new TV deal, San Diego State ain't going to your conference. So San Diego State is stuck in the Mountain West Conference, and you have no SoCal team in your conference. Thanks, Pac-12. You screwed yourself. And no, it's not San Diego State that's playing around too much. It's the Pac-12 that didn't want to basically finalize a new TV deal. I think if they had finalized a new TV deal, or they basically had a TV deal, then maybe San Diego State would have considered the Pac-12. But now San Diego State says, let's just stay in the Mountain West Conference. So all this could have been avoided had the Pac-12 said, let's get ourselves a new TV deal so we could bring San Diego State into our conference. Because you saw what they could do in football. Like, they're a decent program. I mean, Brady Hoke doesn't do the greatest of favors for the Aztecs, but he's not the worst coach. I mean, Rocky Long is forever San Diego State football. But Brady Hoke, we can give him a few more chances. But honestly, I will say this about San Diego State. They are bringing in good recruits. They did get Mark Redman from Washington. He's a former tight end. And I actually do have a picture of him back when he played football in high school. So I will say this. Bringing in Mark Redman was good. And if they do not give him playing time, San Diego State is stupid. And I will just say that San Diego State has, no offensive coordinator. I will be convinced that San Diego State's offense is being played off of Madden rookie mode. But that's just my take. And then also that San Diego State's also getting good recruits all over Southern California. And that is basically what they need to do. So we'll see what happens with San Diego State. I mean, they now are still in the... they're in the Mountain West Conference. If I had to guess how valuable the Mountain West Conference is, in terms of football, I'd maybe say not overly valuable. I mean, Boise State brings in decent money, as well as San Diego State, and maybe Utah State, and maybe Air Force, maybe UNLV, but it's not as marketable as the Pac-12 or any of those Power 5 conferences and whatnot. So I'm just saying, Larry B is funny. He says San Diego USD or University of San Diego to the Pac-12, or San Luis Obispo or Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to the Pac-12. Well, in other sports, maybe. But in football, that would require them to transfer from FCS to FBS. And do we really trust San Diego's football team to take on even the worst team from the Pac-12? No. So I don't think so. I mean, other sports maybe, and maybe we could have San Diego as an independent, or Cal Poly as an independent in terms of the FBS, but I don't think it'll work out in terms of them being in the same conference. So, yeah, that would be indeed cruel. So, I can't really put Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and University of San Diego in the Pac-12 for football. That would be football cruelty right there. But I digress. All right, but that is basically it in terms of San Diego State's news. And closing the door on San Diego State, I haven't really heard much news about San Diego State's Mountain West Conference preseason football polls, which if I do get those polls, then I'm certain San Diego State's probably going to be like projected to finish top 3. I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be like. That's probably the worst situation of them, USC, and UCLA. At least UCLA has a good problem between Chase Young, Ethan Garbers, and heck, maybe a few others. But it seems like the San Diego State offense just sputters. Like if you watch San Diego State football, it's so tough to watch offensively. If you're an offensive-orientated guy, San Diego State football is not for you. If you're a defensive-orientated guy, San Diego State football is for you. I'm just saying. Because San Diego State football loves to win its battles in terms of defense. Offense is kind of, let's just say, the Titanic hitting the iceberg. And if they ever do put like 40 plus on an opponent, well, it's a miracle then. Yes, Larry, I know you like SDSU, but I'm still willing to give Brady Hoke a chance, and honestly, he'll get a couple more chances just because I have a soft spot for SDSU because I have a few friends on that team, but those chances might be dwindling if San Diego State does not meet the expectations in the Mountain West Conference. They are having some tough challenges. Like, they play UCLA this year, but honestly, I can't get too mad at that. If they beat UCLA, I already know Larry is going to be celebrating that. And that'll be something I'll be celebrating as well, but possibly. But we'll see. All right, but that'll do it for the college football portion of the show. And jumping over to MLS, so LAFC, well, this past week was the MLS All-Star break, and the All-Star game was on Wednesday, which saw Arsenal defeat the MLS All-Stars 5-0, which, I don't know if that's expected, which I feel it kind of was, but it is what it is. But for LAFC, before the All-Star game and All-Star break, LAFC managed to tie against Minnesota 1-1 as Carlos Vela scored the first goal of the game last Saturday in the 21st minute. But then 3 minutes later, Emmanuel Reynoso scored to tie that game up at 1-1, which was the halftime score and eventually the final score. So LAFC sadly basically was in a defensive logjam against Minnesota. And it sucks because I think LAFC could have definitely used that win. Though that 1 point, though I don't even think 2 more points would have done LAFC any good, just because they're still trailing St. Louis by quite a bit, as St. Louis did pound the living you-know-what out of Miami last Saturday. So LAFC would have still been behind 2 points if my math still serves me correctly. And unfortunately for the Galaxy, their lossless streak came to an end as they got stomped on by Vancouver 4-2. I could just skip over this game and just straight up tell you all that this was probably the worst game I've ever seen from the Galaxy post-Chris Klein era, but that will not do it any justice. So, the game was already a long one in the first minute. Brian White of Vancouver scored, and it was already 1-0. 2 minutes in, and then 8 minutes after that, Ryan Gauld scored, and suddenly it was 2-0. It gets worse for the Galaxy. Chris Mavinga got a red card, and suddenly the Galaxy are basically now playing with 10 players. It was actually downgraded to only 2 yellow cards, but still, Galaxy were down to just 10 players. And eventually, Ryan Gauld nailed the penalty kick, and basically, it was 3-0. And eventually, Vancouver was up 3-0 at halftime. You have to remember, though, Vancouver came in with a record of 7-7-7. 7 wins, 7 ties, and 7 losses. So I was very surprised that Vancouver was not on their way to scoring 7 goals against the Galaxy. Fortunately for the Galaxy, they didn't get shut out, and they actually scored as Gaston Brugman scored in the 61st minute to get rid of the shutout. And then Marquis Delgado scored for the Galaxy 13 minutes after Brugman's goal. And suddenly the Galaxy were only down 1. And they gave me some sort of hope. But just like this season, the Galaxy let me down. As Sergio Cordova scored 4 minutes in stoppage time. As that basically was the icing on the cake for this loss for the Galaxy. As Vancouver wound up winning 4-2. And yeah, that 6-game lossless streak was basically too good to be true. As the good news is for the Galaxy is that they're not in last place in the West, which is good, but they still have the 4th worst record in the league, as only Toronto, Miami, and Colorado are still basically have that honor. And Larry says, "Go away, Galaxy." And Larry says, "The All-Star game is stupid. I never liked how they play another team from another country." Yeah, that does sound weird. Why do you play another team from another country? Shouldn't it be like isn't it like East versus West? Like, why do they call it the MLS All-Star game? Why don't you just call it the World Soccer All-Star game and whatnot? Like, what? That's baffling. Anyway, okay, so the Galaxy are back in action this Tuesday as they host Leon in group stage play, as they're playing in Dignity Health Sports Park. It's the 2023 Leagues Cup, and they're in group stage play. So, for the Galaxy, they're playing Leon, which won the CONCACAF tournament, which beat LAFC in the combined final. So, yeah, that's going to be a long match for the Galaxy. Watch as the Galaxy somehow pull off the win against Leon. And then next Saturday, the Galaxy will be hosting Vancouver, so the Galaxy get a little bit of turnabout, possibly, in terms of fair play. They had to head down to Canada to take on the Galaxy, or to take on Vancouver, and now they get to host Vancouver, which I think is cool. And basically, that's basically it. And then if they win, they move on to the round of 32. Now, LAFC is also partaking in the Leagues Cup, which I think is awesome. I think the Leagues Cup 2023 tournament is going to be unique for LAFC. And fortunately for LAFC, I think they're one of 2 teams that gets a first round bye or a bye into the round of 32, which is really awesome. So LAFC will actually play the second place team from South 1 group, consisting of Austin FC, excuse me if I mispronounce this name, Mazatlan FC, and FC Juarez. If I mispronounce the second one, please do forgive me. But yeah, LAFC will play the second place team consisting of either Austin FC, Mazla, Maz, Mazla, Mazatlan FC and FC Juarez. I'm sorry if I mispronounced those team names, but the Leagues Cup is 47 clubs in 30 days with three countries in 2 leagues, the MLS and Liga MX. But there will only be one champion, which obviously is super obvious. So it actually takes place today, and yeah, that's basically the Leagues Cup in terms of this whole soccer tournament. And this matchup will actually take place on Wednesday, August 2nd at BMO Stadium, which is... I still don't like that stadium name. I still think it should still be named Bank of California Stadium. I still have to get used to calling it that, and I don't like that name. It's stupid. Anyway, but LAFC will take on one of those 2 teams, depending on who gets second. I don't really know any of those teams outside of maybe Austin FC. All I can really tell you is that maybe Austin, I think it would be cool to face Austin just because you're facing a MLS team, but that would mean you'd have some familiarity. Whereas if you're facing the other 2, Mazatlan or FC Juarez, then you're probably not going to have that familiarity. Now back to the Galaxy, facing Leon is going to be a challenge, but for facing Vancouver, I think they may have a better advantage. At least they're not going to go up to Canada to play them, and also they're not going to have another match where they're going to be down to just 10 players, or they're not going to have another guy where they get red carded. If that happens, then the Galaxy are getting dumb of the week. Like, that can't happen. You can't just have another red card match. Like, that's not the formula of winning. Like, I already have low expectations for the Galaxy this tournament, especially when they're playing Leon. But I digress regarding that. But we'll see what happens with the Galaxy. Again, I don't have too many expectations. But shifting back over to LFC, my only concern for LAFC is I know there's all these teams are in the All-Star break mode, but my only danger for LAFC regarding this tournament is if they go deep in this tournament. Could this tournament possibly run all the way to them having to shuffle around their matches, MLS matches? I mean, they played a lot of matches in the CONCACAF tournament, which required LAFC to basically postpone matches and then move them to other dates and whatnot. So for LAFC, will this tournament be a danger to them? It all depends on how deep they can go. And even if they don't win this tournament, so be it. Their true main goal would probably be just to defend their MLS Cup. But if you do win this, basically, if LAFC does win the Leagues Cup, then cool, that's another feather in their cap, and I guess they could raise a banner. Which, if they'd won the CONCACAF tournament, I was hearing that they could raise a banner, which I guess is cool. I didn't know you could do that, but it is what it is. And then Larry says, can we bring up Galaxy 2, which is basically the LA Galaxy's B team or feeder team and whatnot, which actually beat... Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of LAFC's 2 team, which wound up losing to the Galaxy. But, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the Galaxy 2, so we'll see. I would not mind that. So, yeah. Save the Galaxy some humiliation. I mean, I would rather not see them getting smothered by Leon. It's probably going to happen. It's probably going to happen, though. We'll see. And yeah, it can't get any worse it can't possibly get any worse for the Galaxy. But now it's probably going to. Oh, but we'll see. Alright, but jumping on over to NWSL as we basically pump the brakes on the MLS portion. So we didn't really have too much happening with Wave FC as they actually are back in group stage play in the NWSL Cup against Portland tonight. So this is basically NWSL Cup's group stage play, and I will say this, while they haven't really won a match in like forever, Portland has lost their last 3 matches. Their previous match was actually a 2-2 draw against the Washington Spirit. So if San Diego can actually beat Portland, I know this doesn't count as an NWSL league match, but if they could win this match, this would actually be a pretty good win just because, well, for starters, Portland is a really good team. I've always seen the Portland Thorns as a very good team. And I know soccer can have its ebbs and flows and its ups and downs, and it's a marathon sometimes and not a sprint. So for San Diego, I just would like to see this win over Portland. I feel it is doable, but only time will tell. And I don't think this win counts against their record, and it does not count against them in terms of the standings, at least not to my knowledge. I'm not the biggest NWSL connoisseur, but I'm still trying to learn the rules and regulations in these in-season tournaments, which is something the NBA also has to deal with, which I'll give my thoughts in a little bit. And then for Angel City FC, they are back in action in group stage play next Saturday when they host Portland. So that's going to be fun times. San Diego and Angel City actually face one another at Snapdragon Stadium on Saturday, August 5th, which is another group stage play matchup in terms of the NWSL Cup. And then also, Wave FC plays OL Reign on the same day Angel City plays the Portland Thorns. So, honestly, for Wave FC and for Angel City, it's basically going to be a busy couple weeks. Well, at least for Wave FC. They've got 3 busy weeks, and then for Angel City, they're still probably on the high after beating the North Carolina Courage. And I do have to give a shout out to Alyssa Thompson, as I did hear that she made the U.S. national team, and she will be doing her thing in the World Cup, or in the Women's World Cup. And honestly, I don't think that'll be of too much consequence, because if these NWSL Cup matches do not affect any sort of standing for these NWSL teams, I'm sure Alyssa Thompson will be back for Angel City on Saturday, August 19th, when Angel City has to hit the road to play Louisville. And if that is the case, then honestly, we could see Alyssa Thompson back for Angel City ASAP. And that would be great, because Angel City, I can't believe I'm saying this, they're actually in the playoff hunt in terms of the NWSL standings. They're actually only 4 points back of, believe it or not, Wave FC, which is surprisingly the last team in the top 6. Heck, Louisville and Orlando are only 2 points behind them, and the Houston Dash are only 3 points behind the Wave FC. So, honestly, for Angel City, they're still in the playoff hunt, and I don't want to jinx them, but they have not lost a match ever since they fired Freya Coombe, their former head coach. So this is just kind of interesting for Angel City FC. Maybe they just knew something that we all didn't know. I can't believe I'm saying that. I still feel bad for Freya Coombe. I wish her the best going forward, and I wish that she can get a coaching job really quick, because nothing sucks worse than losing your job that you most passionately love. But for Angel City, they have bigger fish to fry, and they might actually be contending for a playoff spot. But it still all depends, because you could be on the highs of the NWSL right now, but there's always the lows that could come crashing down to basically take you down. And yes, the NWSL is so good, Larry B. And honestly, anything could change in the span of a week or two. So we'll see what happens going forward. As it does look like every team is at the All-Star break, as everyone has played 15 matches. And honestly, I can't wait to see what Angel City can do, as well as Wave FC. Like, Wave FC kind of has to basically get some sort of win. They have to get some sort of win in terms of winning matches, because if they don't, then this cold streak might carry over into September and October, and that can't happen, because if that does, then the postseason might not include them. And believe it or not, the NWSL Championship will actually take place at Snapdragon Stadium. So this was actually just announced a few days ago, and I think it's awesome that Snapdragon Stadium is the host for the NWSL Championship. What would be even more awesome is, honestly, Wave FC gets to make the final, so they'd get a home finals match, and it would show the entire world that San Diego is still passionate about its sports, despite the Chargers packing its bags courtesy of Dean Spanos. I'm still never going to forgive him for that, but I digress. So anyway, for Wave FC and Angel City, they kind of get this nice deserved break, hopefully to lick their wounds and get healthy to the point where they can hopefully take the second half by storm. And if they do well in the NWSL Cup and they somehow win it or they excel in it, cool. But if they don't do well, then so be it. Get the bad losses out of the way and then basically get back at it and get back onto the field and dominate against the matches that truly matter the most. So we'll see. Alright, but that'll basically do it for the NWSL portion of the show. We'll actually take ourselves a quick little breaky break. When we come back, we have some MLB to discuss. Now we've got a little bit of WNBA, as I'm going to try to rip the Band-Aid off quickly as possible for that. And then we have the Dum Dum of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right. Welcome to AZ Sports Daily. I'm your host, Kieran Daly, bringing the heat to Arizona sports. There's no discrimination here. We're going to talk about every sports team, professional and college. The show is all about you, the listener. I'm here to entertain you. Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? It's going to be fun, high energy. You may not agree with what I say. That's okay. Let me hear you. Let's talk about it. Join me every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on AZ Sports Daily. That's AZ Sports, Daily, and at IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
What up, Boston sports fans? This is Mikey Two Guns here, your host of Our Bleepin' City, airing every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Please join me. We'll talk everything Boston sports, all the local teams, college teams. I'm even down to talk MMA, boxing, whatever you guys want. So join me every Wednesday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Chime in with your questions on the chat, tweet the show. We'll even have call-ins. I can't wait to hear from you guys. This is going to be a lot of fun. So once again, it's Our Bleepin' City. I am your host, Mikey Two Guns, every Wednesday night from 7 to 8 p.m. right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. See you soon, people.
Back with the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely do check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Carolina Cast, which will be coming on later today at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Also check out AZ Sports Daily with Kieran Daily every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern, as Kieran Daily goes over all things that are Arizona sports. Also check out Big Cheese Sports with Bernie Bango going on live every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern, talking all things Wisconsin sports in America's Dairyland. Also check out Our Bleepin' City with Mikey Two Guns, which goes live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, which talks all things Boston sports. As you just heard those drops right there. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, as we are currently at 29, if my math is correct. I was never really the best math whiz, but I digress. Anyway, jumping back into the second half of the show, as I'm going to briefly talk about the WNBA, as the second half just got underway this week. As yesterday, actually, to be exact. And let's just say the Sparks are not back to winning. They're back to not doing so great. They actually wound up losing to the Minnesota Lynx yet again, as they lost in close Sparks fashion, 73-70, which is straight up disappointing. And Larry B basically pointed this out in the chat room. The Sparks straight up suck. And the Sparks are horrible, just to properly quote him. And they really were not good in this game. They were actually down by 17 at halftime. They actually made it a game as they got to within 2 after 3 quarters. But they just fell short, as Nneka Ogwumike led the Sparks with 19 points. Always good to see her leading the way. They also got 13 points from Lexi Brown off the bench. Then they also got 12 points from Jordan, Canada. And then they got 11 points from Lashia Clarendon. Unfortunately, it was not enough, as Chine Ogwumike did not play. And also Nia Clouden did not play, as they both had foot injuries. As the Sparks dropped to a abysmal 7-14 on the year, with another loss to the Lynx. I've lost track of how many times the Sparks have lost to the Lynx, but regardless, it has just been sickening, if you ask me. I'm sick of seeing that happening, as the Sparks, believe it or not, they're actually only one game back of the final playoff spot in the WNBA, as they trailed the Chicago Sky by 1 full game. But playoffs aren't for a whole long time. But it's really sickening, if you ask me. I'm really not digging it. As tomorrow, the Sparks hit the road to the DFW to take on the Dallas Wings, as that matchup will be it will be played on tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and it'll actually be nationally televised on Twitter. I'm not kidding you. It says so on the ESPN app that the Sparks and the Wings will be nationally televised on Twitter. That's where you could watch the match, on Twitter. Huh. Okay, you can watch the match on Twitter. I guess that's okay if you're blacked out in terms of watching either team. Anyway, so after that matchup, the Sparks will head back down to the Crypto.com arena to take on the Indiana Fever on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And then Thursday, the two teams will meet again at the same place, but this time they'll meet a little earlier as they'll play at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. And then to close out the month of July, the Sparks will host the New York Liberty at 1 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. Yes, that one's going to be nationally televised, as it's not going to be on Twitter. That's pretty funny if you ask me. I can't believe that actually is a thing. You can nationally televise matches on Twitter. I mean, I guess you could watch things on Twitter, and I guess the NFL did post an entire football game on Twitter, aka Falcons versus Patriots Super Bowl 51. Sorry, Falcons fans. But I guess Twitter has evolved. Thanks, Elon Musk. As we welcome Mike C into the chat room, aka Mikey Two Guns, the host of our Boston show, Our Bleepin' City, as he says, "What's up, my man? Sorry I'm late." No worries at all, my brother. You are totally fine. So, yeah, the Sparks, that's them in a nutshell. They just kicked off the second half of their season in not so good fashion, as, yeah, it's been that bad. I'm surprised they're only one game back of the playoff spot. So it has just been quite the forgettable ride if you are the Sparks. So I hope they can find some way to basically, not embarrass themselves by any means whatsoever. So, alright, but that is basically going to do it for the Sparks. So jumping on over to the MLB. So last night, or actually 2 nights ago, it was actually the MLB match of the, or MLB game of the week, which was actually between the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And unfortunately, sadly it's not featured on USRN's recordings, which, oh no, that sucks because I really want to play that. So, that's heartbreaking. Maybe it was on the other stations, but regardless, USRN did have the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim on their live call, and you could definitely check out USRN on their live call. Definitely do check out USRN and USRN2 and Wellington Sports Radio and a little bit of IE Sports Radio on the Mixlr app. As honestly, it was a great match. It was a great game for the Angels as they straight up beat the Yankees in that game. And I'm so bummed that I don't have any clips of that matchup. So, that's heartbreaking to say the least. But it is what it is. Like, I guess it wasn't meant to be. But, maybe fate just didn't want me to have that in the recording. But, well. But regarding the Angels, Mike says that thank you, Angels, for sweeping the Yanks. You're welcome. You are absolutely welcome, and I'm glad the Angels can do the Red Sox a solid and do your team a solid and make your Red Sox a little bit more happier and whatnot. So, I guess that's just a quick little plug there. Just please do check out USRN as well as our other sister stations. Sadly, I just could not get a recording, and that's kind of on me. I kind of give myself the mini dum-dum of the week for not having that little recording. But, what can we do? I mean, you live and learn regardless and whatnot. So, it's all good in the hood. So, it's just something I will live and learn from, and maybe I'll actually learn to catch it eventually in the future. Anyway, so back to the Angels. Angels swept the Yankees, but before that, it was quite the unfortunate turn of events prior, as they actually played the Houston Astros beforehand, as they just came back from the MLB All-Star break, as last Friday they lost 7-5, but then in their last Saturday, the Angels surprisingly beat the Astros 13-12, which the Angels actually wound up winning in 10 innings, and they actually wound up winning on a throwing error from the Astros, which I found pretty hilarious. And Shohei Ohtani also homered in the 9th inning, which was downright amazing. So we all got to see Ohtani homering, and we all got to see the Astros brain farting in the 10th inning, which saw the Angels wind up winning a decent game. Yes, there was no good pitching, but honestly, it was still a win. But on Sunday Night Baseball, the Angels actually returned the favor, as they wound up pooping the bed, as they actually managed to, they choked a 7-4 lead, if my math serves me right, as 2 carry the 3 minus 4, as, actually they led 7-3. The Astros managed to score 2 runs in the 8th and 4 runs in the 9th. They went up 9-7, and unfortunately the Angels just could not get that extra home run or extra run in the 9th inning, as even though Shohei Ohtani homered in the 9th inning, the Angels wound up losing 9-8, and that was the most Angels way to lose a game. Mikey C says, do you think the Angels will trade Ohtani? At this point, I don't even know. I really don't know if the Angels will trade Ohtani. Knowing the Angels' luck, they probably won't. They'd have to get like a super duper haul. If they don't, then Ohtani's going to still be an Angel. And the funny thing is that Art Moreno said that the Angels were not going to trade Shohei Ohtani if they were to hold on and win against the Astros, which Bob Nightingale on Twitter straight up tweeted that out, and then the Angels wound up losing against the Astros. This was on Sunday Night Baseball, by the way, so thanks, Bob Nightingale. I appreciate you straight up jinxing the Angels and now possibly putting Shohei Ohtani on the market. Dang guy, I don't like that guy. Not really the most reliable source in the MLB, but what can you do? Anyway, so now we get on into the happier moments. So the Angels managed to beat the Yankees in 10 innings on Monday, 4-3, as they actually rallied back from a 3-1 hole, and they managed to tie it up 3-3 in the bottom of the 7th. And then the 10th inning, they managed to basically win the game off of a Stefanik single to left field, and Wallach scored, and that was how the Angels wound up beating the Yankees. Which, it was a good win. It was a very good win for the Angels. Okay, maybe not very good win, but I basically said as long as the Angels get 2 out of 3, then so be it. And then the day after, the Angels managed to beat the Yankees 5-1, which was a little bit more convincing. They didn't have to go extras, and Domingo Herman or German picked up the loss for the Yankees, while Patrick Sandoval picked up the win for the Angels, which is good. As I would have liked to see Shohei Ohtani get the cycle as he got a triple to right field, but sadly that wasn't meant to be. And then this past Wednesday, the Angels managed to complete the sweep over the Yankees, winning 7-3 as they got off to a hot start through the first 3 innings. They led 6-0, and even though the Yankees started to pick up some sort of steam, the Angels kind of cooled them down afterward, as Chase Silseth, who I kind of feel that name is so familiar. Why does that name ring a bell? I feel he went to like a local college, or he went to like a really, 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 really good college. Why does that name sound so familiar? He played in he was born and raised in New Mexico, and University of Tennessee, and also he played at University of Southern Nevada, and he played at University of Arizona. Huh. Interesting. Okay. I just remember his name for some reason, and it's like, he sounds so familiar. Is he a Looney Tune? Anyway, I digress. Composure. Anyway, so Chase Silseth got the win, only his second win of his young MLB career, as the Angels completed the sweep over the Yankees, which honestly, I did not expect to see, honestly, just because, well, for starters, it's the Yankees. So, what can you do? And there's only one thing I have to say. There's only one thing I gotta say in regards to the Angels sweeping the Yankees. Oh no! Stupid ad. But there's only one thing I gotta say in regards to the Angels beating the Yankees and sweeping them in this series.
The Yankees lose.
I'm sorry, I had to do that. But it really, really is something I did not expect. The Yankees getting swept by the Angels. An Angels team that lost in Angels fashion against the Astros on Sunday Night Baseball. Basically on national TV as well. So now I have to wonder, are the Angels going to find some way to basically straight up let us down again? Is this going to be another good fortune moment for the Angels, only to be followed up by another moment? But only time will tell. Anyway, so the Angels have a 3-game homestand against the Pittsburgh Pirates starting tonight and then ending on Sunday. And then they have Monday off, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday they hit the road to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Tigers. Then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they will head on down to beautiful Canada, eh? As next Friday, Saturday, Sunday they play the Toronto Blue Jays, which Sunday they actually play on Peacock, which I guess that's cool. But for the Angels, after they play the Pirates and the Tigers, it kind of gets a little tough for them, as they've got the Blue Jays, and they've got the Braves, which, man, that's already 2 series that's going to be really good. And they've got the Mariners, which is also going to be a tough little series just because the Mariners are in contention. I also can't wait to see I also can't wait to possibly see the heartbreak of Mariners fans once they don't get Shohei Ohtani. I think that would be pretty funny. And then after the Mariners, they've got the Giants, and then after the Giants, Astros, then Rangers, then the Rays, then the Reds. That kind of slows down with the Mets and Phillies. So Angels are going to need to play some darn good baseball going forward. I mean, the fact that they took 4 out of 6 between the Yankees and Astros combined in these 2 series, I think it's pretty good. Now it's all about beating the teams you can actually beat, like the Pirates and the Tigers. So time will tell if they can get the job done tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then we'll see what happens when they play Toronto. But that is going to do it for the Angels. As for the Dodgers have been doing solid, as last Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they took on the New York Mets to get back into the swing of things. I told you all how they did against the Mets. They won in a one-hitter against the Mets last Friday. Last Saturday, they wound up beating the Mets 5-1. And then last Sunday, they kind of broke everybody's heart, and they wound up losing 2-1 on the road in 10 innings. So that's not what you want to do if you're the Dodgers. You can't be losing games like that to teams like the Mets. Like, the Mets are a team that has more math problems than a trigonometry book. And then this past Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the Dodgers was in the DMV playing the Baltimore Orioles, which was vying for a playoff spot. Yeah, go figure. Didn't think you'd be hearing those words right now. The Dodgers actually took 2 out of 3 against the Orioles, as they took Game 1 on Monday 6-4, took Game 2 10-3, but then lost Game 3 8-5. So it's kind of been a little bit of a pattern here of the Dodgers taking the first 2 games and then laying an egg in the final game. Maybe it's just complacency or sense of urgency for the final game from the other team. I don't know. So this Friday, or tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, the Dodgers head on down to DFW to take on the Texas Rangers. Now, that's going to be a really good series, and it's going to be a big test for the Rangers and the Dodgers. And for the Dodgers, if they want to stay in first place in the NL West, they're going to have to beat some of these big boy teams. In addition to facing the Rangers, they've got the Blue Jays at the Chavez Ravine on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then they've got Thursday off, and then they prepare for the Cincinnati Reds to end off the month of July on next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, yeah, that schedule is really going to pick up for the Dodgers to close out the month of July. And then it kind of eases up a bit starting off in August, as they've got the Oakland A's, soon to be Las Vegas probably. Then they've got the Padres, and then they've got the D-backs, which it's only a 2-game series, but still a crucial 2-game series. Then they've got the Rockies, which you never can underestimate. Then you've got the Brewers, which are still vying for playoff positioning. And the Marlins, who are trying to snap out of their losing funk. And the Guardians, trying to basically lock in a playoff spot. Then the Red Sox. Then you've got the D-backs again. Then the Braves. So, yeah. Mike said they won after only getting one. The Dodgers won after only getting one hit. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Dodgers held the Mets to one hit. So if I confused you on that one, that's my apologies. They pitched a one hitter. Julio Urias pitched a one hitter. So I'm sorry for those that kind of got confused. But Julio Urias pitched a one hitter in the game that the Dodgers came back from following the All-Star break. And then Mike actually asks, who is the Angels' biggest rival? The Sox have the Yankees, but I never think of a specific team when I think of the Angels' big rival. Probably the Dodgers, maybe the Mariners. I don't know if they really have any big-time rivals. The only true big rival that the Angels have, in my opinion, is probably the Dodgers, just because they have the Freeway Series and whatnot. So there's that, in my opinion. So there is that for but back to the Dodgers. The beginning of August kind of eases up for them. But to close out July, it's really going to be a rough ride for them, as they've got some really good teams starting tonight and ending on the 30th against Cincinnati. Though the Reds have kind of come crashing down to earth after their blitzing start, as Cincinnati is second in the NL Central behind Milwaukee, so we'll see if Cincinnati still has the Reds magic in them. But all in all, for the Dodgers, they're still doing great guns, and here's hoping they can continue to still do great. And then we have the Padres, which is basically a walking funeral home. Sorry to say, but it is the truth. They actually had a 4-game series, as they actually had a doubleheader on Saturday. They took the first game against the Phillies 8-3, which is a good way to celebrate them back following the All-Star break. Then the next 3 games were a bit of misfortune, as Game 1 of the doubleheader saw the Phillies win 6-4. Then Game 2 of the doubleheader saw the Phillies win 9-4. And then Sunday, the Padres lost to the Phillies in 12 innings, 7-6. Big yikes right there, as that kind of sums up the Padres season in a nutshell right there. But then against the Blue Jays, they actually took 2 out of 3, which, okay, where was this Padres team against the Phillies? As the Padres won the first game against Toronto 9-1 this past Tuesday, as they played this game up in Toronto. Then Wednesday, the Padres beat Toronto 2-0. And then Thursday, the Blue Jays managed to salvage 1 win against the Padres, beating them 4-0. As the Padres are heading down to the Motor City to take on Detroit tonight, Saturday, and Sunday. Then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the Padres will host the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then Thursday they have off, but Friday they'll host the Texas Rangers, along with next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they'll host the Texas Rangers. But it has still been a rocky sled. It's been rocky sledding for the Padres, as they're still 10 games behind the Dodgers for the NL West top spot. Talk about underachieving, if you ask me, as San Diego is 6.5 back of the final NL wildcard spot, as it's just been a logjam to basically get that final wildcard spot. It's been a logjam to get the wildcard spots all together, as there's 5 teams to basically get that. 5 teams are in contention to basically get a wildcard spot. You've got the D-backs, the Giants, the Phillies, the Marlins, and then you've got the Reds. Then you've got the Padres, who are in somewhat contention. And then you've got the Cubs, which are in somewhat contention. Then the Mets, somewhat contention. And then it goes down from there. Mike C. asks, what's going on with Trout? He is still injured, and he's going to be out for, and I quote, a handful of games. So we don't know when he's going to be back, and I hope he comes back soon, because the Angels need him in their pursuit of a playoff spot. So, just to close out on the Padres, I will say this about San Diego. It's just been that type of year for them. I just don't know how to say it, but with all that talent they have, they should not be 10 games back of the Dodgers. They and the Dodgers should be battling it out for the for the top spot in the NL West. Like, the Padres should be better than 46-51. I know Fernando Tatis Jr. was still suspended and whatnot, but that's still no excuse. They are still loaded across the board. So time will tell to see if the Padres can make one last playoff push or if they'll be selling. I still really think that they're selling at this point. At this point, I think the Padres have to sell. Do I think they need to sell everything? No. But we'll see. The trade deadline is not until August 1st, I believe. And at this point, I just am hoping for the best when it comes to the Angels and whatnot, and for the Dodgers and Padres. But that is basically going to do it for the MLB portion of the show. And before we head on into the Dum-Dum of the Week, I do have to give y'all a little bit of a programming note for next week. So there will not be any SoCal Supreme Sports Show next week, sadly, as next week is the NBA playoffs, and I guess I should give this quick little plug here, is that there are 3 SoCal teams in the NBA playoffs. The Inland Empire Matadors, the San Diego Wild, and you also have the Orange County Stunners, who have made the finals the past 3 years. But there will be no SoCal Supreme Sports Show next week, which I'm sorry to everyone that looks forward to hearing or listening into the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. but there will be no SoCal Supreme Sports Show. The NBA playoffs are next week, so that's a thing right there. And hopefully I don't have too much of missing any more SoCal Supreme Sports shows, at least on my end. I mean, do I want to miss any more SoCal Supreme Sports shows? Of course not. But we'll see what happens going forward as, yeah, I still like doing my SoCal Supreme Sports Show, but unfortunately, the NBA playoffs are next week, and I basically can't afford to miss that. So we'll see what happens next week, and I just am going to be too busy with work and whatnot, so we'll see. All right, but now let's get on into Dum Dum of the Week. So Dum Dum of the Week basically goes out to an organization or someone that does something stupid, as no one is safe from this award, as anyone can get this award. And like I said, no one is safe from this award, and anyone is capable of getting this award, except for maybe my IE Sports Radio family. But I do have the perfect Dum Dum of the Week award recipient. So I actually just found this out, or I actually just found this on a couple days ago, and oh my gosh, I can't believe whoever was the brain surgeon that thought of this idea in terms of doing this, well, they need to be fired. Oh my goodness. So this actually goes to sunny Morrisville, and I have no idea where this is. This is actually southeast of Syracuse, New York. But sunny Morrisville, which is located about 30 miles of southeast, which is actually 30 miles southeast of Syracuse, New York, actually had a new field change. So you're probably wondering, well, what does this have to do with anything? And what's so bad about that? So they actually got a new field. It's called Drake Field. Now, I'm not going to give him Dum Dum of the Week for naming it Drake Field after a rapper. No. The reason why I'm giving him Dum Dum of the Week, because the field looks good. It actually has a lot of good markings for like different sports, like lacrosse, soccer, football, you know it. But the problem with this field is all black turf. Let me say that again. Sunny Morrisville has all black turf on Drake Field. Oh, heck nah, bro. This is a complete nightmare. What if it gets really hot? Do these people not know that black basically... the color black and sunlight does not mix? It's going to basically be super duper molten hot. Ugh. Yeah, yes, Mike. All black turf. And I even saw that on Twitter. It's basically going to be a nightmare for linemen that are in like training camp or anything of that sort. But for those that are on Drake Field, please do not come barefoot. Please do not wear socks. Please, don't go onto that field in general. Just do not go onto that field. It is basically going to be smoldering. Just please don't do it. Don't do it. Like, whoever thought of this idea is stupid. I just can't believe this. As there was actually a statement that says, as we set out to replace our old turf, we want to move in a bold new direction that would give our department and student athletes a unique identity to rally around. Sunny Morrisville Director of Athletics Matt Guarock said in the statement. And it says, discussions of replacing the old green turf began in 2022, according to the university. The installation of the black turf started in May and wrapped up earlier in July. Okay, and by the way, Sunny Morrisville is actually a Division III school. Well, I will also just say this. They seem to have the brains of Division III just because... What the heck are you thinking? Are you trying to kill your athletes in the off-season? What if it gets really hot? Are you trying to kill your athletes in terms of dehydration and heat exhaustion? Like, no. Like, this field needs to be torn down and rebuilt. Or at least there needs to be like a sunroof built over it. I just don't understand. Like, whoever approved of it needs to be fired. Whoever thought it was a good idea to have an all-black turf field needs to be fired. And whoever forgot that black and sunlight does not mix and causes super-duper hot heat needs to be fired. Unless sunny Morrisville is not going to have any sort of sunlight, this is not a good idea. And I gotta say this, sunny Morrisville, whoever approved of this, and the entire university who thought this was a good idea, you're this week's Dumb of the Week, because what's going to happen to all these athletes who play on this field on a super-duper hot day? So you better be packing a lot of ACs, a lot of ice, a lot of cold everything, because if a student-athlete collapses on that field, you're looking at a whole bunch of lawsuits. So Sunny Morrisville, you're this week's Dumb of the Week award recipient.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
My goodness. Yeah, Mike says, and I thought the Boise State blue turf was bad. This takes it to a whole new level. Well, yes and no. I actually have seen a high school with blue turf, but that's not all that bad. Black turf is basically a death sentence. Like, black does not mix. Black and sunlight is just basically smoldering heat. It's basically playing in an oven. Blue turf isn't all that bad. But this is just basically torture. So, I understand where Boise State wanted to go with, but Sunny Morrisville should have really thought a little bit better than this. I'm just saying. Alright, now I gotta get on into Dumb of the Week Award recipient number 2. Now, I have always told people to watch what you tweet. I know people tweet sometimes stupid things and whatnot, but unfortunately, jinxes happen. And I'm not going to really try to bash this ultimately, and this is kind of a watch what you post thing, or watch how you word things, but, well, the USA Volleyball Twitter account said, the U.S. looks to go 8-0 as against Turkey in the VNL ever since 2022, as they play Turkey on Friday. Basically, they just had a tweet that posted about the U.S. being undefeated, and unfortunately, long story short, Turkey wound up beating the U.S. Unfortunately, I'm not going to try to say anything bad about it. Maybe it was worded incorrectly, and I know maybe it's the truth. I know that the U.S. was 8-0, but you didn't have to include that in the tweet. Because now that you tweeted that out, you gave some bulletin board material to Turkey and its fans. And the U.S. sadly lost. The U.S. women's national volleyball team straight up lost to Turkey in 4 sets. Quick plug, Set Point goes live every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I will just say this. I don't want to say that was the reason why, but you really shouldn't, tweet out things like that. You maybe should just say the U.S. will look to try to punch its ticket to the VNL Women's Volleyball Finals as they play Turkey. Or maybe you could say they look to go 2-0 this season, just because this year the U.S. split their matchup against Turkey, and they actually beat Turkey the first time. But long story short, I'm not going to give Dumb of the Week. I was actually thinking of giving the person who posted the whole Dumb of the Week tweet out, or the person who posted the U.S. was 8-0 against Turkey in VNL play since 2022 and whatnot. But I'm not going to, just because, well, for starters, they're just doing their job, and honestly, they could have maybe worded it a little bit better or something. I don't know. Either way, I feel that it could have been avoided, but the U.S. straight up lost, and a jinx happened. So, I'm not going to say the USA Volleyball gets Dum Dum of the Week, but I will say whoever tweeted that out, try to word it a little bit better. You get the mini Dum Dum of the Week. Anyway, so long story short, long lesson. Lesson to be learned here, ladies and gentlemen. Just be careful what you post. All right, but before we get on out of here, we have one more Dum Dum of the Week, and this is actually something I didn't know. So, in all my years of being on IE Sports Radio, I did not know you could mic check on Spreaker. I actually went off. So, I don't know if you all know this, but on Set Point, I did Set Point earlier in the week, and I actually had a technical difficulty just because I did a drum roll on my laptop, and I guess it set off something, and then there was a loud beeping noise, and then I had to redo one of my segments. So, I actually did not know this. You could actually pre-record yourself, and you could actually straight up test your mic on when you go offline. And you don't even have to post it. You could just go offline and then just go testing 1, 2, 3, and then just hit stop, and then you don't even have to publish it. All you just gotta do is not hit publish, or you don't have to hit the other thing. I think it's called export and whatnot. All you just have to do is just go to offline, and then basically just test your mic, and then boom, that's it. I was unaware of this, and I have been so, what's the word? Spontaneous and so afraid of me not sounding all that great for my listeners. I hope I sound great, by the way, because Monday when I did Set Point, I wasn't the greatest. I sounded like I was in a tunnel, but I digress on that. But regardless, I was unaware of Spreaker having a whole mic test thing when you go offline. So, oops. I would call this maybe a dumb moment, but a moment where I guess I could have gone offline and tested that out. But that is actually an interesting feature. So if I had known that Spreaker had an offline feature, which I guess could have had me testing my mic, I wouldn't have had to re-record my re-recording of it, because long story short, I had to re-record the second half of Set Point, and then listening back to it, my mic was not sounding good as I actually entered the wrong mic settings in my microphone and sources output, and I had to re-record it again. So if I had known I could go back and listen to the recording of my offline recording, I could have maybe saved a lot of time. But sadly, I didn't. So, unfortunately, because I don't know how Spreaker truly works when it comes to going offline and recording offline, I am kind of this week's Dum Dum of the Week. I mean, I guess I am, but I could have avoided this had I not, drum rolled on my laptop. But regardless, I'm this week's Dum Dum of the Week by a hair.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Long story short, everybody, make sure you get an instruction manual. And I guess I'll give one last Dum Dum of the Week award to Northwestern. I'm not going to get into what's going on with Northwestern, but I will say this. It has more problems than a trigonometry, geometry, astronomy, anomy book. Basically, it's got more problems than everything math book related. And I can't get into the details, but everything is just going AWOL. And it's gotten to the point where the athletic director resigned. And I swear, if there is anything going wrong with that Northwestern women's volleyball program, I'm going to hunt down who is ever causing this whole hazing and negativity of this. So Northwestern athletics department, get your you-know-what together and keep your filthy mitts away from the Northwestern women's volleyball team. That is a great volleyball program, regardless of basically its postseason runs and whatnot. But just don't stick your filthy hands and filthy everything into it. I probably could have worded that a little bit better, but still. Keep your filthiness away from the women's volleyball program at Northwestern. You filths.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I don't even think Northwestern deserves the Kawhi Leonard laugh, but Northwestern has more problems and it needs to stop. And honestly, Northwestern may just need to blow everything up and just start from square one. Except for its women's volleyball team. As long as there's no problems with them, we are in good shape. Okay. Before I lose my mind, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for me to get on out of here, because my stepdad will be arriving any minute now, and I really want to get out of here soon. Yeah, dig? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Mike C, regarding the Black Turf, says Black Turf is the Black Turf is like heat stroke waiting to happen for the players. Exactly. And thank you to Mike C and Larry B for popping into the chat room. I really do appreciate you two popping in. Definitely check out the Sports Couple Perspective as well with Larry B and Cecilia. They go on primarily every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And like I said, Mike Two Guns or Mike C goes on every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern for Our Bleeping City. Definitely do check out that show. I will not be here next Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, so do not expect a show from the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. But I will be back next Monday at my normal time. Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern, with set point. I'll be reviewing the Inland Empire Matadors, the San Diego Wild, and the Orange County Senators. And also, one last reminder, if you are going to the Lake El Snowstorm baseball game, do arrive there early because it is championship ring replica night. Championship replica ring night. If you get there early, you will get a championship replica ring night. Or championship replica ring tonight. Because that's what they're celebrating. They're celebrating the 2022 California League champion from last season in terms of Lake El Snowstorm. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the evening. Enjoy all the SoCal sports action, and I will see you Monday for set point. Have a great rest of the evening, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!